Conversations. My name is Zainab Avni, and I'm going to be the host for today. Healing Conversations for Anything Chronic is a podcast dedicated to bringing in the message that natural healing of all sorts of chronic conditions is possible. So, if you happen to be here in the live or in the recording and you hear this and you think, oh, I know someone who needs to listen to this, please share this podcast with them. Right. And let me introduce you to our guest today, Georges Cordoba. Georges, it is so lovely to have you here. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much, Inef. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be in your show, and it's a blessing actually to be here. And I'll explain a little bit in a second, but you let me know. But I'm very, very grateful to be here with you today.
Awesome, awesome. So let's get started. And I want you to tell us a little bit about you so we get an idea of who we are and how come we are hosting you here today.
Okay, yeah. Well, my name is Georges Cordoba. I was actually born in Venezuela from Greek parents and Spaniards from Madrid parents that basically migrated after World War II from Europe to America, to Venezuela. And so I grew up there, and at the age of 18, actually until then, I was in the national junior tennis team. My dad played Davis Cup, and so I won a scholarship, a full scholarship to come to America and play for one of the universities here, NCAA Division One tennis. They paid 100% my studies, so I was able to study engineering, software engineering, and that's how I started my career. I landed a job, and I came to New Mexico State University. I live in New Mexico now, in the same town I went to school. But for 30 years, I lived in Florida, in Miami, Florida. I worked for IBM, and I was in the tech world for a while. I became a CTO, Chief Technology Officer, and that's when everything changed. Everything was going great. We had five young children. Now they're adults. I have four grandkids. Bless them. And but I got sick. I was inflicted with cancer, and I must say that on my Greek side of the family, pretty much when I looked at the family landscape, I felt I was doomed because my grandfather died of cancer from the Greek side. His brother died of cancer. Then aunt died of cancer. My godfather died of cancer, which was my mother's cousin. Everybody from, and then later my uncle, my mother's brother, and then my mother. My mother died of cancer. And 3 weeks after her passing, I was diagnosed with cancer. And it's important to say this because you know the rules of the mind. And if you anybody saw The Secret or many of the things, what sometimes what you don't want, you get. And I always fear the disease. And when I was diagnosed 3 weeks after my mother was passed, obviously that was a shock for us to lose mom, my kids, five kids. We have five kids now. They're adults, like I said, but one girl, she'll be 30 now in December, and they were just in shock losing their mom, their grandma, and then dad has the same disease. And that at that moment, though, uh, one thing is being diagnosed with cancer. The other one is telling you that it's pretty advanced already. It was melanoma, and it started in my head. The main focus was on top of my scalp, right? And so nobody wants to hear a diagnosis of cancer, but if you have five young children, it makes the anxiety even worse. It just I can't explain. I explained it in my best-selling book. I wrote a book about my story, but in any case, everything started. Everybody goes. One of the rules of the mind is that everybody goes to an oncologist. I mean, that's pretty much everybody in the West. Europe and America, and so that's what I did, and I started my journey through battling the disease, which I battled for 10 years, and I had 10 surgeries. At one point, I had again, it started in my head, but I had 8 tumors metastasis in my brain on year 8, and I had, of the 10 surgeries, 4 of them were in my brain, 4 craniotomies and 2 gamma knives. And after all that, 2 of the 8 tumors were not operable. They were in the back, in my back lobe. They just needed to change, keep it, keep them on check. But they were growing little by little, but they were not operable. So that was really the diagnosis. And you say 10 years very easily right now, but it was a battle in every aspect. Needless to say, the financial aspect, we already had some, funds for retirement. We have here in the U.S. it's called 401ks, individual retirement accounts, and we have saved for each of the 5 kids in some programs, like mutual fund programs. So we had to tap into all that, even though I was already doing well. I wasn't a CTO, Chief Technology Officer, but I was doing very well as a director, and my wife. So, but needless to say, 10 years is very costly. It was a financial tsunami. The thing is, I have to say this because, first of all, in the beginning, I kept asking myself, why this happened to me? I'm a good guy. I am a good father. I'm a good Christian. I mean, Catholic. I'm Catholic Christian, and I could not understand it. I just couldn't. But it wasn't until I realized, I humbled myself and I said, this happened to me because of me. It was my fault. Then later with the years, I understand now. I've been practicing so much. I never stopped learning. And so, but I'm not gonna go there. It's just, this is the beginning. But on year 7, after my first craniotomy, I don't know, because of the lighting, but it was in my front lobe, a 9 hour surgery, to remove imagine a small lime. That was a small one, but that was already. Oh, sorry. Here, hold on a second. Um, can you give me a second,
Yeah, of
please?
course.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna. I just have a. Hold on. Sí, estoy en un podcast. I'm sorry, there was unexpected visitor to do the fumigation and the poppy.
all right.
I had him in the room. Anyway, and so what was I on year 7, almost year 8, after this first craniotomy? They gave me. I accepted, like I said, we know is conventional medicine, so I accepted 6 weeks of radiotherapy in my head, and that really was the reason what other tumors came up. That they gave me that warming, and that really is what happened. So
Let's pause for a second. Um, so because I want to know, you say it was taking 10 years, right, until
yes,
something happened. But how? I mean, is it 10 years of active cancer, or was there some remissions, or also how
great question. Yes, it was 10 years of. First of all, it was a blessing to be able to have 10 surgeries, because that mean they could remove tumors, except those 2 in my backlog. But yeah, it was appeared. It appeared. I had my first. Um, it was really not a craniotomy the first time. The second time, yes, because it appeared again here. But it was my first surgery was in the top of my skull, and then we started all the typical tests and scans and all this, just to make sure that, and that's when I realized that it was advanced. I had already some lymph nodes that were positive on my right side of on my neck, and so they extracted 23 uh, lymph nodes and a muscle, because three of them were not, they could not get to, and
Mm.
those three were positive. They put me on my first treatment, and 4 months after that, the disease came again, because I had some tumors in actually lymph nodes that were positive, and so they stopped the treatment. I had 22 lymph nodes taken from my right left part of my. They didn't have to. Didn't have to remove any muscles, but two of them were positive. And
Mm.
then so I, they waited a little bit. They gave me a different type of chemo, and I went through that for about 7 months. And and in one of the scans, they realized I had a tumor right on my area, gluteus area. So they had to remove it. They gave me a different type of chemo, and then, but at that time, I myself, I did some research, and there was a clinical trial which with this peptide, a protein that it was very good for the immune system at the time, and I had shown that it was good with, stopping melanoma, which is what I had. So I proposed my to my oncologist to try that, and they really tried to put me on that trial, and it worked. So for 1 year, I had to just inject myself every day for 15 days, cutaneous. This thing called CMGFS, which was another peptide that really was put me in remission for a year, over a year.
Mm.
But I had to do it for a year, and each of those, by the way, each of those shots were $1,000 each.
Mm.
And obviously, I had insurance, but on year three, I ran out of all deductibles and all stuff, and it was just coming from our savings. I don't want to go into health systems and stuff, but
Mm.
so yeah, to answer your question, the longest remission I had was a year, and then all of a sudden, that's when the first tumor in my brain came up, and the last few years, it was just all in my upper, my brain, and
Yeah.
uh, and so yeah, it was basically, finding it, surgery, treatment, remission, again, recurrence, surgery.
And how do you keep hope?
Yeah, that's a
How do you
great
keep going?
question. One of the things first of all, I'm a person of faith, and I understood that faith without action, like the Apostle James said, is dead. Show me your faith with your action. So I took action. That was one of the things. But the main thing was I carried pictures of my five little kids in my wallet. I had them on my computer safe screen. That was my reason for leaving.
Mm.
But I have to say, on my first craniotomy, when they told me all the things that could happen, etc., all I could think was my kids, my family, and the things that I didn't do, that I always said I was going to do. And so you see how important it is. I wanted to see. I was praying for seeing my kids graduating from high school, my young daughter to do her first communion, and those were the important things. I forgot about all the, let's say, luxuries we had, and but I kept the hope, because I made a challenge. Like I said, I'm a competitive person because of my tennis. So I saw my cancer as when I realized that it was my fault, I took responsibility. I took the attitude that cancer was my biggest opponent. And so I had to prepare for it. I had to really study the melanoma stuff. I have doctors in the family, surgeons in the family. They were all basically put him in the cemetery. when I saw that it went to the brain. But I said no. I said I'm going to be the first person in my family that survives, on my Greek side, that survives the disease. I'm going to beat the odds. And
Mm.
that's it, by the way, the name of my, the title of my book, Beating the Odds. And so the hope was threefold. My kids, obviously, that I could say, I kept saying, God, you gave me this beautiful blessing of five kids, and now you're going to take me away. I'm a good Christian. So I play the piano in mass. I do this. We go to retreats. We go to missions in South America. I
Mm.
was already living in the States, but we would go like to Guatemala, Venezuela, even with border with Colombia. This is I was born to help, and so uh, I kept my hope just by utilizing the power of my mind. I started visualizing myself being healed. With my faith, I would see this light blue, holy light ray coming through my head, and just going through my body. I mean, I would do that two, three, four times a day. You might remember the uh, the game Pac-Man, the Pac-Man, the little creature going around. I would see those creatures going around my body, eating up the tumors and things like that. And another thing was that I protected myself from fear, the fear that other people have. Everybody when here, oh George, how you doing? I know, man. How man, have faith. And everybody had me in the cemetery because everybody, in a way, still see cancer as it comes and it's going to take you away. But I would prepare myself before I would go out. I would visualize, and then when I would go to the doctor's office, I had this beeper, and this was in 2002 to 2012. But in the beginning, I would tell the nurse practitioner, hey, beat me. I'm going to be in the garden downstairs in the hospital. And when it was my turn, I would go up because I wanted to avoid the fear energy that was for all the patients waiting for their turn. So I really used the mind. It made some things that I learned with tennis to be a better competitor. I had studied a little nutrition when I tried to play professional. It didn't work. I didn't have really the funds to go forward. And so, but I used all that power of the mind in there. And in my protocol, I one of the things I do is teach people how powerful their mind is and how they can make the mind familiar to other things, not just conventional stuff. So
So let's
that's how I kept it up.
let's pause for a second. First of all, I definitely want to go back for a second for that realization that you had about it's all my fault. That sounds like an interesting place to go. But before we go there, I think I think you're absolutely right. When people hear the word cancer, of course, there's fear. And I was talking to with one of my clients, and she had cancer, and it was really interesting because even though she could see some changes, like positive changes and all of that, there was one moment when something, I guess she allowed fear to come in, and I could see how the fear, in a space of one session, how it really it took over. And
Yes.
I was like, okay, we have to kind of pump the, you know kind of
Yes.
pump it up a little bit to pump the energy and find a way to release the fear, because otherwise it felt like it was, that was like a dead end. So let's talk a little bit about how you understood that it was your fault, and then let's talk a little bit more about the fear and
Yeah.
how people, and I think not just with cancer, of course, but because a lot of the time people with chronic conditions, there is a lot of fear there,
Oh
right?
yes.
So
Yeah.
how did you manage to
Yeah.
change it?
Yes. Well, one of the things that it gives us a lot of power is surrendering, humiliating ourselves. When we really surrender to a process, somehow we start feeling this power. Fear is obviously for any chronic disease, for anything. You have an accident, just whenever you have something dramatic or traumatic in your life, you have fear. That's our ego. But fear, enough, is the opposite of faith. And faith is really the let's say uh, definition, the dictionary definition of faith is the certainty of what you want, because there's something bigger than you, that if you take action, it's not a magic one, you take action, things will happen. That's the certainty of what you want, and that's really the opposite of fear. But in the beginning, it was all fear, a fear roller coaster in the beginning. And it wasn't until I realized that it wasn't why, it was what for. What for? What did you get sick for?
Mhm.
I mean, this can't happen. This doesn't make sense. I mean, it doesn't. I'm an engineer, let's say, in my previous life. So with my logic, I said, you give me all this, and now you put me into this battle, and it was really, melanoma in the US was very much unknown at the time, that there was no, let's say, immunotherapy or anything like that.
Mm.
So it was really faith, and then surrendering. When I realized the doctors were just throwing, we in America they say the kitchen sink on me. Well, let's try this, let's try that. I realized that except the surgeries, if I didn't have those 10 surgeries, especially in my brain, those four, you and I would not be talking here. So I'm very grateful for the advance. And my neurologist was amazing. The guy, the surgeon oncologist was really good. But this other stuff, these treatments, were not really helping me. And so it came to a point that it wasn't with this faith. I said, look, I'm going in a loop here. It's just really, you know, uh, I'm healed, recurrence, surgery, treatment, remission, surgery. So at one point, through meditation, I never stopped doing the stuff that I was doing before. My morning meditation, nourishment. I even, when my first craniotomy, my family doctors, when they heard that I was already home, they came to the hospital. They came home and they said, "Where's George?" I just got home. I was playing pool volleyball with my kids, and when they saw me, they said, "What are you doing? Get out of there! You crazy?" And I say, "Crazy? I feel like I was born again." My attitude was always, "This can't happen. This doesn't make sense," and so that carried me. And also, I have to say that the books that I read for my tennis on my subconscious mind and all this stuff, I really used that. It was a combination, and that's why I became a holistic coach, of my spirituality, my mindset, my emotions,
Mm.
and my physical body.
So I want to share with you that my older brother died of melanoma in 2010, and it's it is, you know, it's bittersweet, right? To listen to your story, and I'm like, I love what you're saying. That you, it sounds like you made that decision, or like you said, actually, that you are not you are going to be the one that is beating the
Yeah,
odds. And it sounds like you managed to, to carry that through. And even on the down days, and the days that the fear came back, all of this decision that you're going to beat it was always
yeah,
there. Then that, coupled with, like you say, your faith and your children, it feels like this gave you this something that a lot of people that I speak with, they, maybe they don't have it yet. And it just yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, my my brother was also, um he went on a clinical trial, but it ended up being the wrong one. So by the time that they found that there was a better one, it was too late for him. Um, but yes, so just at my, you know,
Yeah.
as I'm
There
listening
is
to
a,
you, because it's like,
I was trying to find something that uh, I was part of a conference in Toronto 2 weeks ago, and somebody actually said what fear meant, like the F, the E, the A, and the last two is boy, I forgot, but the last two is something that appears real. It's the present moment, and I was a little bit fearful when I was looking. I was kind of like sitting on the fence. Do I just go natural? Do I stop this? It's not working for me. I mean, if I need to get another surgery, thank God that I was able to have operations. So everybody's different. Your brother, bless his soul, maybe didn't have some of the stuff. In my case, I was in very good shape, even though I went down to maybe, what was it, 45 kilograms, maybe around there, not even 40, half of my real weight. And so,
but this is
um,
very interesting, actually. My brother was actually, he was gym fanatic. He was
oh,
in,
okay.
very good, health. But the other funny thing that I was thinking about, because I was reflecting on that for quite some time, is that he had this attitude that he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He didn't let the cancer go in, and it was like this thinking: if I ignore it, it will go away. And so it was really, it's interesting, because I was reflecting about how later on, when I started doing what I'm doing with the emotion code and all of that, and realizing that actually he was saying that, but he didn't realize that he needed to let the emotions out. He didn't, there was a lot of unknowns for him. But
Yeah.
so I guess what I'm saying is that yes, attitude is very important, and of course physical health, other than the cancer, is very important. But there's more. There's more, and
Yeah.
let's hear from you.
I'll tell you a little bit, if you allow me. When I finally took the leap of faith and say, I'm going to go natural. I'm going to go the holistic, natural route to heal. And actually, by the way, this past July was my 12th year free of cancer.
Mm,
And but at that moment, fear came again, and I say, look, I'm going to go to God's pharmacy. I'm just going to do this the way it is supposed to be. And so here's one thing that I would love to share with the audience. Healing, my friends, happens from the inside out.
mm,
It's not from the outside in, like many people think conventionally. You could go to the east and see that. And I was really, I opened my heart. I have to, if you allow me to share, I'm not really somebody that can quote the Bible back and forth. I grew up Catholic, so I can't. But I can tell you that when I was sick, I really focused on the New Testament, and I saw Jesus as a man telling everybody, every miracle. Jesus said, "Your faith has healed you. Your faith has healed you." He never said, "I'm the Son of God," or "Hey, I'm one of the avatars in history." No, he said, "Your faith healed you." And then Saint John in the book of Revelations, and this is key also, he says, and this one is in chapter 3, verse 20. I know because he changed. I mean, it was part of my healing. The whole verse says, "Hey, I'm knocking on the door. If you listen and you open, it's not like God wants to it can break the door and come in. But if you listen and you open, because it's only one, the doorknob is from inside. If you open, then I will come in and we will dine together. We'll have communion together." So it's all about opening your heart, learning how to receive from people. And when you do that, because we it's really hard for us to receive. I'm writing a book about the miracles formula, which is all about learning to receive. It's easier to give. But if you, Anev, were willing in my time to come up even with a lentil soup for the family, excuse me, I would really heal because I was with an open heart. And I said, wow, she took time at 7 in the evening, and she lives about 15 minutes 20 minutes from the house. So that was really key. But when I decided to go natural, finally the universe, God in my case, however you want to call it, this source conspired for my healing. He started to send me what I call angels in my book, people that I had no idea that would come forward. And um, and one of the things that happened is that things I will get tips from people, but real tips. Because in the beginning, everybody has, oh, I heard about this, I heard, and then you go crazy. How do I? You actually get confused. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, oh, you decided to do this. I did it against my wife, against my doctors in the family, because they thought I was crazy. And in the credits in the book, one of the doctors said, "Man, he proved us all wrong." And they call it spontaneous remission. It wasn't. It was just understanding that the healing is inside. I have to share real quick with you guys one important tip for prevention. Worldwide, right now, one of two people will have cancer. One or two men will have cancer in their lifetime, and one of three women will have cancer in their lifetime. Why? How is that? Now, so my coaching is obviously referrals, people that are ill or they want to prevent recurrences or stuff like that, but also now is growing on prevention. And here's one way to prevent disease, or if you have it, you can start killing the environment where the cells grow. And this is I learned from a naturopath. My first action when I decided to go natural is to clean myself from all these years of toxicity, and with the chemo, and they're not nutritionists. Thank God I had a little bit of that, because they tell you eat whatever, so you don't lose weight. That's not because what was recommended to me was actually basically feeding the cancer cells a lot of sugar, refined sugar in this little quote unquote shakes. It had like 30 grams of refined sugar in there. So the environment that between the chemo and the sugar, it was just producing more cells. So here's the key. This guy, actually, after a scan that he did, it was not invasive. It was not in America. It was not approved yet from the FDA approved. So he brought it. I think he was from Germany, and he gave me a scan. I could see, Anem, my like inside. It was almost like I had fireworks all over my body, and that was acidity in my body. And so he says, you are very acidic. We have to work on your pH balance. And he says, if you reach a balanced pH in your body, disease cannot grow in a balanced pH body.
Mm.
And if you already sick like you are, you're going to destroy the environment where the cells are striving to duplicate. And so I took that like I was listening to a pastor giving us some amazing. So this is an amazing tip, and I give this away. And I later on I'll share information where you can get this ebook that I wrote about a balanced pH and your health. That's
Mm.
on the physical body, and then many other things related to that. But this is key, and I'll also provide a table of foods that are alkaline and foods that are acidic, so you can, and then in a way you can yourself start creating balanced pH plates. I'm not a proponent as a nutritionist to go extremes, paleo, keto, completely vegan. we have types of blood types and metabolisms that need certain proteins that come from animal source.
Mhm.
So, but I do believe in learning how to balance your pH, and I guarantee you that if you are sick with any chronic disease, so here's another important fact: all disease. I learned this actually last year in a conference at Holistic MD. He's an MD. He became holistic in many approaches, practicing different things. And he said that all disease, chronic disease, cancer, whatever chronic disease, diabetes, heart disease, start in an inflamed body. So if we work on getting back to not an inflamed and acidic body, but an alkaline body, you are in a good position to avoid those stats: one of two men, one of three women, and a great position, or any chronic disease. That's on the actually on what you eat, etc. But there are other components, obviously, because he also say that all disease, and actually, my dermatologist, I go once a year to get checked. She told me, because I had this client, 18-year old, 18-year-old, let me see, ANF, with tumors of melanoma in the brain, and the kid did not even go to the sun like I was. I learned how to swim before I learned how to walk. My parents said, so I was in the sun in Venezuela in the tropic. And she said, well, they also found out now that melanoma is also emotional. So we have to actually work, try to work in all the areas of our being. We're not just a physical body, but those two things are so important. Another one that is very important is, and it's I don't think it's so much in Europe, and I have clients in Ireland, Australia, and I have worked with three people in London
Mhm.
so far. And but if we're not careful, I'll give you the stats in America. People here in America swallow their food after 6 times, after they chew 6 times. That's terrible.
Mhm.
We need to learn how to chew more, take more time to eat. In this societies today, we have, it's almost people eat in 10 minutes and then they go do errands before they have to go back to the office or whatever. We are really damaging the process, the natural process of digestion. We have to take our time, chew more, especially if you're chewing meat obviously you're chewing mashed potatoes, maybe with 8 times you basically process the food, but digestion starts in the mouth. You have to chew so the saliva enzymes do the processing. So when you swallow, the stomach does what it's supposed to do. But if you swallow before you process, the stomach does not know what to do. And guess what? It sends it to fat, and therefore nutrition for us did not go all the way through. And guess what? In 2 hours you're hungry again. But if you eat fast again, and now you're in a loop. So when people tell me, because I have folks that say, look, I want to prevent, I'm too overweight. In the US, if things keep going, half of the nation will be obese in 2030. So this is crazy, because then imagine all the disease that come from that. So I just wanted to share that, because and then obviously on the mind, I'll share some things with you, just for you, Anef, and this ebook and stuff. You don't have to go to my website, and other things, that rules of the mind, because you're a coach, and we can share that. Those I learned, and I have
Mhm.
permission to use it. If I put down in the bottom that is from Marisa Pierce, rapid transformational therapy. But when I did my hypnotism a year and a half ago, I finished it. I learned so much about the mind, and I could not stop thinking, wow, I applied all that without knowing, when
Mhm.
I went natural, because this stuff is not new. It's there for the ages.
Yeah, I think it's the age old question, right? If if someone is being diagnosed with cancer, and even if they're already in this way inclined to think about natural healing and understanding the emotions and the gut and inflamed bodies and all of that, there is still that expectations, or like you said, you fought your wife in this case, but there is still that, you know pressure from outside to go conventional. And so it's, I'm wondering, with your experience now, have you seen positive improvement or complete healing with people that are now following your methods? Is it like a guaranteed thing? Can you stand there and say, actually, of course, I'm not a doctor and I'm not telling people what to do. I get all of
Yeah.
that. But in
Me.
your experience,
Yeah.
would going the natural way be the
Uh,
same?
yeah. That's a great question. By the way, we let me say this: when I go and do a talk, because I'm invited, or I love to go and share not only my story, all these things that we're talking. The first question I ask is, if whether it's 5 people or 500 or 1,000 or 20, but I always ask to break the ice. Somebody introduce me, and then I say, look, I have a question before I start. Can you raise your hand if you're terminal? And so you see a few people raising their hand, and then I just said, well, okay, you can bring it down. And then I say, look, if this was a test, those who didn't raise their hand flunked. We're all terminal. We're
Mm,
gonna leave one day. We don't know when, but we are terminal. So you see the mindset, how it works. So everybody kind of lies a little shy, but they laughing, or they're smiling, and they say, well, one more question, and then we keep going. And I say, well, raise your hand now if you are 100% sure that you're going to open your eyes tomorrow morning. And nobody raises their hand. So
mm,
that says a lot about what you were talking about. Now, on my 8 years since I made my transition from technology to health and wellness, only 4 clients have decided to go 100% natural, and one decided, basically the rest, because that one of the rules of the mind is that the mind goes to what is familiar. Everybody, they're just too scared uh, to break that particular rule of the mind. So what I do with my clients is I say, look, I'm not here to tell you to go this way. There's 8 million survivors in the US that went natural in the last 5 years,
mm,
because it's more familiar. Now we're getting into a lot of the stuff from the East, and then we learning this stuff,
mm,
and applying it. So it is not a guaranteed. It's really inside of you. And but to finish the thought, what I do with the clients, I don't even touch on that. They do ask me, how did you manage to do that? So I explained that it had to be with faith. I was really sure about myself, and I
mm,
got to the point that I love myself so much. Most of tennis players are self-centered, I have to say, but I just said, you know what? Uh, no, this is not going to happen, and I know it's going to help me for whatever reason. All this beautiful stuff that I call God's pharmacy, I'm going to use that, and
mm,
I'm going to relax. And then I worked on another point, but to finish the question, I just have 4 only, and the ones that don't, I teach them how to take that chemo. And instead of thinking of the side effect, I say, look, if that stuff is making you feel the way it's making you feel, imagine what it does to those tiny cancer cells. However, then I teach them about the pH balance. We do about things about how to eat and how to release stress, which is not easy when you're going through a situation like that. And that's why, in my case, I added hypnotherapy, because we go and try to work on emotional clutter that is there since we were youngsters, and we
mm,
start removing that. And for me, one of my healing point was forgiveness. I had to learn how to forgive. I had to do it, and I did it. And that's because I read a book by the title Emotional Intelligence. But anyway, forgiving others, asking for forgiveness, and forgiving yourself, which is the toughest one. But as I did all this through the last 3 years, when I decided to go natural, things started to happen. I never got, ever, especially on the emotional part. I remember exactly when it happened. I don't want to say if in case people buy the book, but it was during a Fleetwood Mac concert. Fleetwood, and
That can connect you to God, right? That's
and it was my wife and I. I'll give you that. Then you see it. You can read it in the book, which is also now in audio, which is easier. You could go into. It's not a large book, but so yeah, it is definitely something that even some doctors, like this guy that I met in a talk, and a few oncologists that are starting to look at other alternatives. 'Cause when they get sick, they all they know is what they learn. But when they see that it's not quite working, they say, "Well, let me see. Man, George did it. Let me see what. Let me call him more." You know. So there's no guarantees, but I can tell you that if you do the work, at least I do this blunt statement, but I tell when I do my discovery sessions, I ask the person, we build rapport, and they send me an intake form and to their problems and what they're eating, what not, their supplements, if they're sleeping good, a bunch of questions. And then they say, yeah, I need this program. And I say, let's say you're a prospect, and I say, well, Ina, are you willing to do the work? Because without action, we're not gonna go anywhere. On the side of conventional, all you do is you're pretty much inactive. You do what the doctor does, and then you go home, and you're hoping that really playing that role of a patient more than 50% of the time, I have to say, doesn't work. And recurrences keep coming, like it happened to me, because I didn't find the root cause of my chronic disease, which was cancer at the time. But all diseases are emotional. So, but once I found the problem, my cancer didn't come back, and it was in the emotional side. That's why right now I'm finishing a book titled "Forgiveness is Healing," and yeah.
so. Yeah. So okay, we need to go there. So first of all, I mean, did you understand the root cause, the emotional root cause of your cancer by doing the RTT stuff with Marisa Pierce? Is that where you found it, or did you already find it before?
No, that one I found by reading a book. I was really looking. And again, that's another universal law. He who seeks will shall find.
Mhm.
And so I found some stuff very interesting about healing and with forgiveness. And I thought, I never really, I was scared. I was scared to get out of my comfort zone and deal with all the stuff that I was building since I was a youngster. When I clear that clutter is when really, I just basically released the equivalence of a grand piano from my shoulders, and things just happened. With RTT, I just actually enforced all my training on the power of the mind. I was never fond of hypnosis. I always thought it on TV, and man, you lose control. That's not the case. But what happens there, uh, which I didn't hypnotize myself or anything. I did a lot of meditation, trying to go down to a very state of a meta, which is really what hypnosis is. I never got there, but with hypnosis, the client has a possibility to actually find out what happened and realize that the issues they have today are caused by this. these scenes. And so we work on transforming, doing a reframe of those scenes,
Mm.
and the person understands now what happens, and then we do a final part, which is the transformation, and it's so powerful
Yeah.
because anybody with chronic disease, or especially with cancer, that you have, your life changes. You have to add another routine in your life, going to biopsies, surgeries, treatment, and and then you have the fear, you have depression. You know, some of these drugs cause many mental things. So RTT, it's for me, it was another, and it was an angel, really. I have to tell you the story, but we don't have time for that. But hypnosis is really a key component of healing, and it doesn't have to be, you know, I saw some uh, case studies of folks that had, you know, they had OCD, for example, or they're, you know, post-traumatic you know, depression, stuff, you know, some stuff that are with mental health, that, boy, you can have the client really see what, why, and work on that. And it's short of miracles
Yeah.
to do that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But let's touch on this forgiveness bit, and then we will probably have to wrap up.
Okay.
People people talk about forgiveness a lot, and in fact, a lot of the time, what I see is that people say, "Well, I forgive," and what they mean is, "I put it out of my mind." But you're not saying that. You're saying actually go there.
Yes.
Don't put it out of your mind. Go there and sit with it, and make it evaporate
Yeah.
because it no longer has power. How
Yes.
how do you do that? How?
Again, it's really humbling yourself, and saying, you know, I have some great quotes. I have a chapter on forgiveness in my book. Well, basically a chapter of everything that I worked to heal,
Mm,
and that's why I do the four legs of the table. But one of the quotes, it's and I believe it's from Dalai Lama. Uh, can't say the whole thing, but I'll give you the idea. He says that forgiveness is like you wishing somebody to drink poison, but you are drinking it if you don't forgive.
mm,
And so you carry that. You can see, you think you leave it there and you forget about it, but it's there. And not only that, it's there, it's producing serotonin, cortisol, which affects your nervous system when you're eating, for example. And so we cost, I mean, everything on us. If we understand it, this is, it's really simple. Nobody taught us this in school, but if we can manage to basically have a, as much as a clear mind, mentally, like one of my mentors, and I don't know him, but I read all his books. Robin Sharma, he says, um, do not allow people to step on the beautiful garden of your mind,
mm,
because then, you know, weeds will start growing. So you have to protect your mind. You have to clear the clutter as much as you can emotionally. Embrace spirituality, you know, your earth, a beautiful tree. You and I, we are all the same soul wise. We're designed the same.
mm,
And then obviously learning how to take care of your physical body, which starts with movement. We are designed to move, and that doesn't mean, like your brother or myself, to be athletes, to go out to the gym. A walk, maybe at home, do some stretching. There's just so many tips to really embrace and then put them into action. In you know, and that's my advocacy now, more on prevention. Let's just get rid of these stats as
mm,
much as we can, you know. And so with forgiveness, I have to say that the moment that you release, let's say in my case, you know, I also hurt people, especially as a youngster. You know, I was not a responsible person, so it's not really crazy stuff, but I thought, you know, I had guilt, When
Mm.
I would think, hear a song and remember this person on a relationship, a lady in college, I was, so I had to forgive myself. And so I would go and I say, hey, look, I'm sorry. The ones that I could, some people had passed.
Mm.
So we did some surrogate work and retreats. So there's many things, but forgiveness is healing. If it's anything that I would say, don't worry about stopping your traditional treatments. Look for other alternatives parallel to that, which is 90% of my clients, to actually provide good health for the immune system and the good cells,
Mm.
and you know accelerate the healing process. And if I would start on anything, it will be on the area of the emotional, the forgiveness, forgiving others, forgiving yourself, being forgiven. when
Yeah.
you when you release that and you do it opening your heart, no fear, and you'll see results. You'll start really seeing. And then the doctors will say, man, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. That's what they told me. Well, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. I have to share that when I decided to go, um, and not all oncologists do this, but when I decided to go natural, I talked to my doctor and I say, doctor, I'm not, I'm stopping all this stuff. And he said, are you sure, Georges? And I said, yes, I am, but I would appreciate if you continue to do the follow ups on me. And he goes, oh yeah, and if you ever want to come back, we start again.
Mm.
And so the first 2 years, the oncologist and his nurse practitioners, we became family almost on 10 years on this.
Mm.
They could not believe it. They said, man, you're getting better and better. And I would explain what I was doing, and they just, because they only know what they do.
Mm.
But I have to give you some good news, and I know it's happening in the UK and definitely in the US. The top hospitals, at least here in the US, they're now opening what they call a holistic department,
Mm.
where the client could go and get a massage, acupuncture, they could get some nutrition help, they can get, and so now they call it, functional uh, medicine. They're realizing that it's a team, it's not just chemo and
Yeah.
radio. Yeah.
Yeah. Judges, I think this conversation is so important for anyone, really. I mean, people with cancer, people, other people, anyone who is really, suffering from anything. Um, I think you're giving so many wonderful nuggets of different way of looking at it. And we didn't really touch on your program much, but you mentioned the table, right, with the four legs, and as you say, you have to have the balance, right? It's
Yes.
your words,
And
right?
yes, and for that, I'll give you some information. I'll send you some links if people want to have like a clarity session, complimentary. They can book a half hour with me, and we can really talk about what the program is all about. And if anything, if there's not a match, they're gonna learn a lot of stuff more like they did today.
Mm.
But it is, for me, this is not a job. I say in my book that my survival experience actually was a blessing, because God gave me the chance to sing the song I was born to sing. My purpose is to help people, and in this case, he works in mysterious ways. I'm helping people with cancer, and half of my Greek family died of cancer. But so now, not only I was the first one to to survive it, but now I'm striving to help people heal, transform their health and vitality. I cannot use heal, but I tell all of you guys that if you do the work, let's say we start working, it's 3 months, it's a 90-day process, because we're changing habits, we go into reframing beliefs, and I must say that almost all cases we go another extra couple of months because the person is realizing that, oh my goodness, I'm doing so better, so much better, but I still need somebody to hold me accountable for a while.
Mm.
And that's really the key there, accountability, and one last thing, the Chinese say that the only two times, because this is important to know, we don't really reach 100% balance of all the four legs of the table. That only happens when we are born and the day we're leaving this planet. That's what the Chinese think. And then the rest in the middle, what we are doing is adapting to change. And so, um, having said that, healing happens from the inside out. And I must say, I'll leave you with this quote also from this guy, Robin Sharma: no one will believe in you unless you believe in you, or until you believe in you. And if you believe in you, if you love yourself and learn how to receive, wow, you're on your way to preventing disease or healing from it, any chronic disease.
I think it's I guess I find myself saying that a lot, actually. But what you said, it's that decision. It's a decision that I'm going to heal. I'm going to find the way, and
Yeah,
not lose that.
yeah,
This is it. I am going to win it. And yes, I have some bad days. Yes, I have some setbacks and all of that. But overall, this is where I'm headed, and no one is going to say otherwise. And
absolutely.
and when you have that mindset, you will
Yes.
win, like you
And,
have.
and one thing is also your intuition. Now, our intuition, that gut feeling that we have since we were little, it's our best coach. But we are taught to not trust that, and
Yeah,
so we lose that power. And then when we get sick, we give all our power to the doctors. It's okay because we're familiar with that, but it's not the right thing. And you just said it perfectly. It's really a personal decision and understanding, really trusting that healing is from the inside out.
yeah.
Yeah.
I believe in that. So, Georges, thank you so much for being here with us
Oh,
today
thank
and
you.
sharing your story and bringing all of these incredible snippets of wisdom and ideas and things that people can already do. For everyone watching or listening, of course, all of your information, all of your links will be in the show notes. People, please
Okay.
do get in touch with Georges and get in touch, have that clarity conversation. Share this podcast with anyone you think might need to hear this. I believe that it's probably about half the world in this rate. um, let's spread the word. Let's spread the word that yes, if you need to use your medicine, do that. But let's consider the alternatives that will help you strengthen your system. All four legs of the table, which are, let's say them together. What are the legs? Physical, mental,
Emotional,
emotional,
mental, and spiritual.
and spiritual.
Yes.
Yes. So it's a balanced job. Thank you so much, Georges. And
Thank you. Thank you
yes,
for having me in the show. And I can tell, uh, your purpose as well, which is key too, having a purposeful life. But what you do is amazing, and I appreciate that because I don't see myself being a host of a podcast, but some of you, like yourself, are there for a reason. And so, yeah, I just hope that people tune in. I will send my social, which I already started, but once it comes in, I send them to you. I usually, what I've been doing is I listen to one or two episodes, maybe not the whole thing, unless it's something that really hits me.
mm,
Uh, but so I could, you know, tell my social following, hey, look, it's not only me. Check out some of these episodes, and so that's great.
yeah, the message has to be there. I feel that yes, people
Yeah,
don't know, like you said, they're listening to the doctors. Fine, listen to the doctors if that's what you have to do, but there's other ways, and this is what we want to do. Bring this awareness. So thank you so much, and anyone watching, please like, share, comment, and let's stay connected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.